Good morning, guys. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. For those of you that are interested in thought leadership through books, I have a special guest for you, Romana Rocks. She's from Austria and she helps authors write their first book, publish, and she's going to talk to us all about the process. She's no stranger to the show, and I'm really happy to have her on to showcase her company or business, her expertise, and help people that are interested in publishing, self-publishing get started. So, Romana, welcome.
Thank you for having me on your show. Hello.
Yeah, briefly introduce yourself and we will dive into the questions.
Yeah. My name is Romana Hasendel, which
Yeah.
is a real hard name for English speaking people. So that's why I call myself Romana Rocks, and I love to rock the stage. So I'm teaching a lot on stage, in person, and online. And for the last 2 years, I've been guiding people from their first idea, which is mainly in their head, then to their first book. I have an own radio show over here in Salzburg, Austria, which is called the Literature Hour, and is very sophisticated about literature. I do everything I can do for the process for the young writers and authors, and with young in the business and not in age. And between 2015 and today, I've written and published 11 books, 9 of them non-fictional and 2 novels. And I'm working on number 12 right now. Things are rocking.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. In kind of book writing, book publishing, that's a very broad. There's a lot of different niches and experiences, skill sets that you can help clients with. And when people come to you, what do they need? What is their pain point? What is their frustration? What's their aspiration? What are they trying to do?
Yeah. For most people, the first pain point is that they have ideas or have started writing already, but they do not know how that writing gets a book, so it becomes a book. So that is the first question people ask me. And the second question is, over here in Europe, people are still in that mindset that for releasing a book, you need a publisher. That's not true, but they still think you need someone who does that for you. We have a lot of possibilities for self-publishing, but most authors or becoming authors think the best way is via a publisher. So I then help them to sort it out, like structure the whole thing. And first of all, always ask the question, what is your goal with your book? What do you want to do with it? And in that process, many people realize, oopsie, the book I'm writing, that's just for about 150 people. And then you don't need a publishing house, right? You don't need it. So that's where we then get into the process. I help them to structure their time, of course, how to do what, when. And on the other hand, structure their first draft, for example, because most people think it's enough to write it down and then grab that paper thingy, 100 pages, and that's a book, and that's not true. So I teach them how to redo it, rework it, and then, of course, if they want, how to approach a publisher and what to do next. So for how long do I wait, right? If I send emails to 25 publishers, for how long should I wait? Because one thing is cruel, but true, not all of them will answer, not even if they don't want your book, right? They are very slow in answering. Most of them tell you on their website it takes up to 6 months. And then I tell people, okay, you don't suffer down, you don't start crying and don't stop. You tell yourself, okay, I've written 20 months. I'm waiting half a year, and then I go in self-publishing. So I really push them and tell them that's not a bad thing. It's good. And it brings you better money. Of course, working with a publisher brings you very little money, except you write a bestseller. And with a bestseller, I don't mean an Amazon bestseller, because that's just playing with the algorithm. 10,000 sold copies. that is a real bestseller. So if you have, that's good. But most people don't make that in Europe because we have so many different languages over here. If you do it in the US, that's much easier. There are a lot of people talking English. But over here in Europe, you have, that's not very much. You have about 100 million speaking German. You have about, I'm not sure about the Spanish guys, but the French, Croatian, Portuguese, whatever, Swedish. So they are all small language communities. And of course, because of the language barrier, you don't sell that many copies because there are not that many readers like you would in the English community, English-speaking community on this world. And Spanish wasn't a good example because you have South America, you've got a lot of people speaking Spanish there. So we talk about all those details. And we find so who is your main reader group, right? We find out how are they? Are they male, female? Do they drink tea or coffee? Do they travel by car or bicycle? So who are they? We find that out. And then we find out how big is that community that is interested in your book. And so then you can make good decisions. That's most of the time technical work, but I really love it. And it blows people's minds. So they didn't expect that, right? They think, oh, I'm here, I'm writing, and then I publish, and that's it. So it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, very fascinating. And like I said, we'll talk about the joy of humor and laughter and happiness and good moods because you really cultivated that as an entrepreneur. And we'll save that for the kind of the latter half of the conversation. For example, you mentioned the purpose of writing books and the intention of writing books. And a lot of people, they write books to make money or to build like kind of build their brand. What are the reasons someone would write a book in addition to those two that can't be accomplished through, for example, like a blog or a newsletter or through speaking? Like, why would someone like focus their efforts on a book?
This is a very new thing over here that people want to write a book because they want to become an authority in their field and they want to tell the world, hey, I'm an authority. I've written a book.
Yeah.
So there are two kinds of writers in that case. We have those who they listen to, for example, YouTube videos or courses, and they get told, hey, you can write that book with AI, right? It's just 50 pages, and then you are rich, famous, and an authority. This doesn't work, but it's sold very well. So what I tell people is, please don't try to avoid the work one has to put in a book because that really makes you an authority. And that is the difference because it's hard work. I don't fool around here. I've written 11 books. It's hard work. And sometimes in between you burst into tears and you ask yourself, why am I doing that? But that is part of the process. So what I tell people is, okay, let's say a tiny book, like the tiniest thing one can sell as a book contains 50,000 words. That's around 200 pages, right? And if you write nonfiction because you want to become an authority in the field of, let's say, dog training, because over there I see my dog sitting at the window. So you write a book about dog training and you give a lot of examples and pictures and everything so you can blow it up for 300 pages. And that's what a reader expects of a book. Everything else is just a brochure, right? It's 50,000 words means if you want to write the book in a month, you have to write 1,666.666 periodical words per day, which is about 2.5 pages. That's not a lot. But first of all, you have to think it through and you have to know what you want to talk about, write about. So I tell people about that. And then if they get in the process, if they are ready to really do that work, you can see miracles on how they change and really become an authority, because they act different on stage after this process. And that's why I love the process so much. And I always tell people, don't expect of becoming rich, but you will become another person. And that is the richness inside. And I teach people who are ready to get into this process. Sometimes people show up and say, I've seen a YouTube video and that guy promises you write 10 books with the AI and then you get rich and famous. Yeah, please try it. Go ahead. That's, you will have your readers with that. Of course you will. You have readers for almost everything, but it's not my way. So I always want that work to be put in. I want to see how people change and grow up. You really, with writing a book, you really grow up. That's for sure. And then you're grown up and you can become a happy person, for example. You are confronted with yourself, with all the lows and the ups, and then you're ready to be a happy person.
Yeah, and very interesting is who you become. And a follow-up question I have for you is, it's very interesting to hear the difference between Europe and America, because most people I know who've written books, they said, screw the publisher, I'm just gonna self-publish it and use social media. It's much faster, much more easier, and you get to control the rights to your work. And in this day and age where people are less that are not reading books, is there still value in becoming an author, or should people look for becoming influencers in other ways?
Over here, we don't have that situation that people really don't read any longer. So the book market still flourishes. Really, it does. And we have a load of young authors, especially in the German speaking region. So every time I get a new book and I'm blown away of what ideas they have and how much you can feel how much they are in the topic. When you say, is it better to become an influencer or an author, right? The thing is, becoming an influencer looks very easy, right? For example, do you know that skip rope guy from Switzerland?
I don't know.
That's wow. So what people think, he's just there, like he wears no shirt and he's full of muscles, and then he jumps with a skip rope and he does those 25-second videos. He's got millions of followers. But that is the peak of the iceberg. The peak of the iceberg, because below the waterline of the iceberg, you have the huge part of it, right? And then when you talk to him, he tells about the hard work he put in, not only body wise with jumping all the time, but also with how do you get your followers? When is that peak? You have 1,000, and how do you get more? So that really is hard work. You have to specialize. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be authentic.
Mm.
That's the absolute magic word. So if you want to become an influencer, don't do anything which is not authentic. Don't play, don't fool. People will get it after a while. You won't get millions of followers. If you're an author and you're writing nonfiction, you can do whatever you want. You are just like the mug where the liquid is filled in and spills out. So you are what I call the mug where the gods put their ideas in. I'm talking about nonfiction, right? With all fantasy, science fiction, crime novels, whatsoever. And you don't have to be you all the time. You can be a dreamer. You can be a serial killer. You can be the greatest lover on earth. You can be whatever you want. And that is a huge difference. When it comes to money, it's the same thing with influencers. If you want to become rich, You have to put a lot of work in, a lot of work in both sections. And you have to be lucky. It's not all about work. Some people do real good work out there and they're not lucky. Nobody gets them. So it's a large piece of luck you need. I'd say for me, the most important thing in becoming a writer, because I once had an 8 to 5 job, right? So I'm not born as a writer, but I had an 8 to 5 job and I quit it in 2012. And then the hard work began. And I'm not what I call now, I'm not a millionaire, but I'm a very rich person because I can travel when and wherever I want. I have a camper, I have my notebook, and I travel and write and do my online courses. And that's what I call rich because I live my dream life. And that's a thing I want to give people to think about. What is rich, being rich? What is it for you? Maybe it's not about the money. Maybe it's about freedom. Or maybe it's about community. I always call myself, I'm a little, I don't know, a little weirdo, right? So if you want to have the community of those wonderful weirdos who want to travel and feel freedom, maybe richness is being with them. And the decision of which way you want to walk, right? It's which kind of work you want to invest, because influencing is another thing than writing.
Yeah, and so I love your passion and your joy and your energy, and it's very interesting to see the difference in culture-wise in Europe versus the USA, because here your measure of significance is your income and your net worth and your title and what you do and what you own and possess, whereas in Europe, you mentioned people are always reading. It's one thing that I noticed when I was traveling, there was everybody has a book and they're reading. And here, everybody is on their cell phone, just scrolling, just mindless scrolling. So I think that's the difference between like capitalism and very more. So in the also with education, the next question I have for you is because I've seen two camps. One is what you're describing, someone like a J.K. Rowling or a Michael Crichton devoted to their craft, the hard work. You talk about the hard work and producing that bestseller, that New York Times bestseller, just selling a million copies. But then you also have a camp where it's very interesting because I was just listening, and then people are like, "Yeah, you can write a book in 1 week. Just put down your best thoughts, your ideas. Just get it out there. Just get out there. Just get a minimum viable product. Charge 99 cents. Advertise it on social media. If a million people buy for 99 cents, you became a millionaire." So, what are your thoughts on just get it out there, executing? Could be quote a brochure versus someone producing just that single outstanding work. Where should people be focused when they're writing their book?
I think you can do that, what you just described. But nevertheless, you have to know your target group. For example, in my case, with my new novel, I first of all set my target group. And of course, I use AI to work on that. I ask her, listen, this is what I want to write. That's in my head. How big is the target group of 35 to 60-year-old females who love crime novels, and they love to travel. They love to travel by car, and they drink coffee
Huh.
because I want that's very exact. And she came out with not more than what was it, 500,000 people. That is for German speaking group. It's a large group. If 500,000 will buy it, oh my God. But that is the most possible target group, right? So the first thing is, if you talk about blow it out, write it down, sell it on social media for 99 cents, again, you have in the English speaking community, you have more chances because the readers community is larger just because of the language. That's where we start, right? If you have a topic, like when AI started, the first 10 authors who came up with DAI, that's how you prompt. Of course, they sold. It's clear. People wanted to know, what is that new thing? Of course. So if you have a topic which is brand new, then, and you want to work that way, there's nothing to say against it. Of course, we have to be very clear. If you write it in 1 week, and the quality can't be very good, it's just good. If good is enough, good, go for it.
Yeah.
Because if we have a normal publishing process like I have now, so my new novel has 580 pages, and it's just soft cover, but thick. I had 2 proofreaders. The waiting for the proofreading took me 3 weeks already, because it's a lot to read. And the smaller your book is, the faster your proofreader will be, of course. And that's another difference between the US region and Europe, that in the US, writing coaches tend to tell that you don't need a proofreader. What you write is perfect. It's your fault. We don't do that. So we are more, you need at least one proofreader who will tell you where are your thought twists no one can follow. That is maybe a cultural thing. I don't know. So that's one difference. But for example, I offer a summer camp for 8 weeks. Write your book in 8 weeks. And people I talk to are, what? In 8 weeks? Oh my God, that's so fast. So that's absolutely different. I think if you like, for example, what was that novel? The Cafe at the End of the World, John Streletsky. You know that? It's a very small book. Something like that you might write in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know how much time it took him. So you have a brilliant idea. You write down your thoughts. You're very clear in where you want to go. And he lands a bestseller. The thing is, I'd never promise a person you become rich with it. Because, for example, there are so many life coaches out there. And they are good. They're good, doing good work. But how many books about life coaching will the market take? So you have to have one very clear idea, different idea, new point of view. For example, I take the dog example again. There are loads of books out there about dog training. And there's one lady from Italy, and I think, oh, cool, that's a new idea. And she says, you don't have to train your dog the normal way. I teach you how you show your dog that he follows every step and tries to do the stuff you do, like opening the door or whatever. That's very new. And a book like that will sell. But if you are publishing the 1,000th book about how to make your dog walk on a leash, that's not new. It's really hard to sell something like that. That's my personal opinion. So when people tell me I just want to write a small book, I want to get it out there, I tell them, please, then be very clear about your idea. This has to be your special idea, not only your main thoughts about life, the universe, and the rest. A special idea. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Interesting. And so to conclude the conversation, because you describe yourself as a lucky person and a happiness mindset. For those looking for more meaning in their life, and you touched upon it, this idea of being rich and wealthy is everybody's definition is different. And the more I talk to people, this kind of one-sided westernized definition of rich is actually very close-minded. What does it take to have a happiness? What things do you do to cultivate a happiness mindset, a tools for crises, and how does one become a quote lucky person?
Okay. Are you ready for a big secret? Big secret. Are you ready for that? Okay. The thing is, it's a brain chemistry, right? Your brain does not know the difference between, if you're, for example, smiling or laughing, if this is real because you think life is good and you are having fun, or you just make it up. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It's the same for it. So the moment you start smiling, like you're doing now, right? Smile from one ear to the other, your brain activates a whole chemical cocktail because it thinks life is good for you at the moment. And then you get wonderful hormones, over 14 of them, with one smile, which are released in your brain and flood your body. So most people think I first have to be happy and then I smile. But it's absolutely the other direction. You first smile and then you become a happy person. And this is a recipe I really give people. Try it. Start your day with a smile. Smile to yourself in the mirror, your dog, your car, wherever you want to smile. And then give that smile away. Get out there and get to the newspaper guy and say, it's a lovely day. Hey, wow. And he starts smiling too. And this is amazing, amazing. The funny thing is I travel a lot. I've been all over the world. I've been in the US for 8 times. And the funny thing is, the poorer in our terms a country is, the more people smile there. It's unbelievable. One time I traveled the US, my luggage got lost. Things like that can happen. In New
They
York,
always happen.
yeah, New
That is
York airport.
commonplace.
I'm there and I have no luggage, I have no undies, no toothbrush, no nothing. And I walked to the counter and said, my luggage is lost, like this. And that guy looked at me and he said, why are you thinking that's funny? Why are you laughing? And I said, because it doesn't help if I cry. It won't come back. And then he like started laughing. And I said, okay, that's where we are. We could close that counter, go for a drink. No, that's the magic. And I traveled India or Thailand or like countries where there are a lot of people who are not like we in the situation. They own an apartment or a house or whatever. People sleep on the roads. Not everybody, but many. And they still laugh. You can't believe it. So the thing with the brain chemistry, that's absolutely true. And that's not from me, that's real science. And that's what I give people. And start with a smile every day. And then if you grow up with it and you get like a more confident, you laugh out loud. You wake up in the morning, you laugh out loud.
Interesting.
And for example, you can have a laughter buddy. My laughter buddy calls me every Monday at 8:30. So I pick up the phone and we laugh for a whole minute. Like that, a whole minute. We get breathless and then we hang up. Needs nothing more. You don't have to talk. Then you are happy for a whole week.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your approach and I love your pace of conversation. Here, what I notice is people talk very quickly, and it's all a matter of perspective and language, and so I love that. And if people wanted to learn more from you and reach out to you about writing their first book or learning the process of writing or becoming an entrepreneur, how can they do that?
They can hop on the website romana.rocks and contact me there, because that's the special website for English-speaking persons.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for having me. And